Hi everybody. Um, this is a new thing I'm doing. We'll see what happens. Nobody freak out. Um, so, I was talking to my friend Tiffany um, at Inept Gamer on Twitter, and she's told me multiple times in the past that um, I'm really good at learning rules to games and then being able to teach them rather quickly. Um, and she made the comment that she wished someone would write a tutorial on how to learn rules for a game. That kind of sparked a discussion and has led to me here. So, what this is going to be is Tiffany picked out a game, one that I had not heard of, I have not seen before, I have not looked at the rules, and I am going to, in real time, read through the rules PDF and try to give some kind of insight into how I learn this game. Um, so the game in question is Praetor, um, designed by Andre Novak. Let's see here. Categories on BGG are ancient, city building, and economic. The mechanics are modular board, tile placement, variable player powers, and worker placement. Well, that sounds pretty darn good. Alright, so let's go ahead and open up the rules PDF. Alright. And here we go. Alright, so Praetor, rules of play. I'm going to skip the flavor text because it's flavor text. Alright, so the aim of the game, the aim of each player is to accumulate the most favor points. The player who gets the most favor points at the end of the game is appointed Praetor by the Caesar and will continue to lead the city to prosperity and the glory of the Roman Empire. Players get favor by building new tiles in the city, by sending their workers to visit temples, and by giving up resources to fulfill Caesar's demands. Alright, so let's see here. In Praetor, you will take the role of a Roman engineer, and you will work together with the other players to build a magnificent city. You will manage your limited resources wisely and look for new ones. You will recruit new workers while your old experienced ones will retire, so that kind of sounds a little bit like Village. You will build settlements. Excuse me. You will build settlements to keep the population happy, and you will praise the gods to earn their favor. Caesar will reward you if you give away precious resources to build Hadrian's Wall, thus increasing your chances of becoming Praetor. Every turn, you will place your workers on previously built city tiles to gain resources, morale, new workers, or favor points. You may also assign workers to build new city tiles or spend resources to meet Caesar's demands to gain favor points. At the end of each turn, you will have to pay your workers, otherwise the mood in the city will deteriorate. Most of the actions your workers will perform will help them gain experience. They will become increasingly skilled in collecting resources. Your most experienced workers will eventually retire and bring you additional favor points, but you still have to show some solidarity and pay them until the end of the game. The game ends when there are no more city tiles available or when Caesar has no more demands for resources. The player with the most favor points will be appointed Praetor and win the game. Alright. So, alright. Components. Let's see what we got here. So we got some city tiles, some wall tiles, player boards, a common board, resources, workers and markers, and summary sheets. City tiles. So, building costs with the city tile, and the favor points awarded to the player who build the tile. Alright, so that's up in the upper left-hand corner. Tile activation type, and I should probably, if you want to follow along, I'm on page 2 of the rules. Tile activation type, green, red, or gray, cost and benefit. Alright, plaza, the design of the corners. When the player places a new tile in the city, Matching the plaza design with adjacent tiles brings him extra favor. Okay. So if you want to match up the corners with already existing tiles. Alright, so we got some wall tiles. Resources. Okay, so that's what Caesar's demanding. Looks like it has points and resource cost on it. Extra favor points in the back of the wall tile for each subsequent wall tile filled. Okay, so there's a face value favor points on the tile, and there are extra flavor points. Yeah, I'm not reading the rules for Viva Java, the coffee game, the dice game, but I'm going to probably keep saying the word flavor. So deal with it. Extra favor points for each subsequent wall tile. Okay, so if you build multiple wall tiles, you'll get extra points. Alright. So we're trying to build city tiles, we're trying to build walls. Player boards. So we got normal and expert side. A pool of potential workers. Novices. Workers in training after they were recruited. Note that there are 2 levels of training. Okay. Morale track. Each level brings a number of favor points at the end of the game. Resource exchange rates. Active workers and the salary. And retired workers and the pension. Alright, so it looks like you recruit workers. They have to go through 2 levels of training before they can be active, and then after they've retired, they get a pension. Alright, that makes sense. Common board. Turn order track and score track. Alright. Then we got resources of gold, wood, stone, marble, and weapons. And they are not limited. Alrighty. Go back over here to the side column here. City building game. Use their workers to gain resources. With those resources, they build city tiles, fulfill Caesar's demand, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. So workers equals dice. So your workforce is represented by dice. And the side of the die facing up is the experience level of the worker. Okay. And they gain experience by building new city tiles or by activating specific city tiles. And once they accumulate 6 experience, they will retire at the end of the turn. 5 types of resources. Gold is the most common, mainly used to pay workers' wages. Wood, stone, marble, and weapons are used to build most city tiles. Wood is also used to manufacture weapons. All resources can also be used to fulfill demands of Caesar to gain favor points. The morale level of your city is depicted on your player board. Okay. So you want to keep morale high. So building the city. So it's made up of city tiles. You have to spend resources to build the city tile, but you gain points in return. City tile may also have a benefit for the controlling player and a specific use with an activation cost. Players use their workers to build city tiles or activate city tiles. Okay. Alright, and each city tile may only be activated once per turn. Alright, so we're going to have city tiles, we're building them, we put workers on them to activate them. Alright, it's kind of making sense. Fulfilling Caesar's demands. They give resources to Caesar and gain favor points in exchange. Players may activate the Imperial Outpost city tile. After the Imperial Outpost has been activated, the player chooses a wall tile. Okay. Alright. This is going to be a slight rules document critique. One thing I don't really care for is when rules reference a component or whatever that has not been mentioned yet. So in this example, so to give resources to Caesar and gain favor points in exchange, players may activate the Imperial Outpost city tile. I don't know what that is. there's 42 city tiles. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that that's one of those. Maybe it's a start tile or something. It's not a huge deal, but it's something that I don't know. It's something that I think can be helpful to people trying to learn the rules, is if they can, you know, before you make reference to something, you say, okay, there's this component, it is this Imperial Outpost city tile, you know, out of that 42, which tile is it, you know, that kind of stuff. But we'll see. Maybe it comes up on page 3. Spoiler alert, page 3. Alright, so set up the game. We're going to select all the city tiles according to the number of players. Alright, so the tiles are marked, 2+ and 3+, and so on. Alright. And the starting city tiles have 0 on the back. Actually marked with a 0. And they're not marked with a Roman numeral 1 or Roman numeral 2. Put them face up in the middle of the table according to the figure below. Alright, so it looks like there's 3 start city tiles. Okay. So then we're going to take the remaining city tiles, shuffle them up, shuffle the one marked with a 2, create a face down stack, then shuffle all the tiles with a 1, place them on top. Okay? And then we'll shuffle all the wall tiles and put them face down. Then we'll reveal a number of city tiles from the top of the stack equal to the number of players plus 1, put them face up near the stack. They form the available city tiles, and then we reveal the top wall tile. Alright, so it kind of sounds a little Ticket to Ride a little bit there. There's going to be a group of city tiles that are available. Alright. Take a player board, place it in front of you. Depending on your experience with the game, you can choose the A side or the B side of the player board. Alright. So all player boards have the same A side, but the B side is different. B side offers an asymmetrical gameplay, slightly more difficult. Interesting. Let's see why. So identify and take all the workers and markers of one color. So you can put a marker on your morale track on 0. You get 10 gold, 4 wood, 3 stone, 2 marble, and 1 weapon, and a partridge in a pear tree. I added that part, sorry. So 3 workers with 1, 2, and 3 experience in your active workers area. The rest of the workers in the villagers area. Alright, all with 1 experience. Put the common board and the remaining resources within reach. Place a marker on the gold mine closest to you. What's the gold mine? Oh, they did it again. Oh, I bet that's... Okay, maybe those are part of the start tiles. So maybe there's 3 face up, or maybe there's 3 building start tiles, and then there's a gold mine. Yeah, okay. So there's gold mines for each player. Okay. So then you just put a marker on the one closest to you. Ah, here we go. The ever-present first player rules. Player who's been to Rome most recently. Nah. Place a marker on the favor track on position 10. And the rest of players should continue counterclockwise. Positions 9, 8, 7. Alright. The player will then place a marker on the turn order track. Starting with the player, okay. The least favor points on number 1 and so on. So it sounds like start player gets extra starting points, but they're the last to act. Alright. That makes sense. Notice the 3-player full setup on the next page. The components are not drawn to scale. Okay. City tiles are quite large. The city may expand in any direction, so please allow enough space on the gaming table for building this city. Alright, so we need a big table for this one. Alright, so we're on to page 4. Complete setup for a 3-player game. Alright, so we got some dice and some resources, and 1, 2, and 3. Alright, so purple is the start player, so they get the 10 points, but they're last to act on turn order. Yeah, and okay, so the gold mine tiles must be part of the start. Alright, okay. Alright, playing the game. The game is played over several turns. Every turn consists of 3 phases: turn order, action, and update. At the end of the last turn of the game, a final scoring phase takes place. Okay. Turn order. Turn order is determined by the player's positions on the favor track. The player with the least favor places a marker on the first base. The second place. In case of a tie between in case of a tie between several players, sharing the same amount of favor points, the markers are stacked on top of each other. Turn order is then decided from the top to the bottom. Okay. So if they're tied, then you just pick who goes on top? Okay. In case of a tie between several players, the markers are stacked on top of each other. Alright. Well, maybe that'll make more sense when we get into scoring. Okay, so that's turn order phase, so we're going to do that, figure out who gets to go first. Then action phase. One by one, in turn order, players will take one action or pass. So you can place a worker from the active workers pool on an available city tile to build it. You can place a worker from the active workers pool on a built city tile to activate it. You can activate a special city tile. Okay, alright, so those one by one in turn order, players are taking one action or pass. So, okay. So, the 3 actions are build a tile, or you can activate a tile that's already built. You can activate a special tile. So let's see what those special tiles are. I may not have said. We're on page 5 now. Alright, so to build a new city tile, so you're going to choose one of the available ones, check if you have the resources, put an available active worker in the center of the city tile and pay its cost to the bank. So then, then you can put the tile in the city adjacent to at least one already built city tile. Okay? And then, so then you put a marker on there too. So we got dice as workers. We also have little discs as markers. So you're going to put your marker on the tile that you built along with the die that you used to build it. And then you'll get points based on what's on the tile. And then you'll get additional points for each corner on every adjacent city tile that matches a corner, matches the corner of the newly built tile. And then update your position in the favor track. Alright, so the example here they talk about is a lumber mill. So he puts a worker on the tile, pays 2 gold, because that's the cost of the building. Puts the city tile in the city, puts a yellow marker on it. Oh, you can rotate the city tile too. Okay. And choose the best placement. That makes sense. So then you would get the 1 point depicted on the tile, and then you would also get 3 points because he matching 2 corners in the top right and 1 in the top. Okay. Okay, so you count the corners of adjacent tiles, and how many of those match the corners of the tile you just built? Get you okay. So the worker's going to stay on that tile till the end of the turn. As soon as the tile is built in the city, it becomes available for all players to activate. Okay, so just because it's got a worker and a marker on it, it's still available to activate. Alright. Hey, that segues right into how to activate a city tile. Alright, to activate, you're going to choose an active worker from your player board, place it on the city tile you want to activate. Each city tile can be activated only once per turn. Okay, if that city tile is owned by another player, you must pay the owner of that tile the activation cost. Alright, well this is probably where it would be cool if I actually had the game so I could show... Okay, alright, I got it. So there's a little circle on the bottom of the tile that has a cost associated with it. Okay. Alright, so where were we? Back down to page 5. Alright. If it's owned by another player, you must pay the owner of that tile the activation cost. City tile is owned by you and has no owner, then you do not need to pay any activation costs. The city tile is owned by you or has no owner. Huh. How does it... Oh, was that one of the special tiles that doesn't have an owner? That might be what they're talking about. Because it doesn't sound like you can build a tile without taking ownership of it. So it's probably the special tiles they're talking about. Alright. So you gain benefit. Okay. Alright, one thing that I'm not picking up on yet, and maybe they explain it later, is when do they increase their experience? Maybe that happens when they come off the board. That might be how that works. Alright. Okay. You may also use an action to activate a special city tile. These can be recognized by the gray background of their activation area. Every special city tile can only be activated once per turn by each player. Okay. Activate a special city tile. You must first pay the owner of the tile the activation cost, and then perform the action allowed by that tile. Oh, okay. So, special tiles still have an owner, but you don't have to use an active worker to activate them. Okay. You may activate several special city tiles per turn, but you may never activate the same tile twice. You use markers to keep track of which special tiles you've activated. Okay. Alright. One in turn order, plus to take one action or pass. Okay. Alright, that makes sense. Oh, if a player has placed all of his active workers, he must pass. As soon as the player has passed, he may no longer place workers, so they're out. You can choose to pass before placing all those active workers, but this is not a wise decision and not recommended. Well, then why are you telling me? Before deciding to pass, look through the final scoring section and see if there is still an action which might bring you additional favor points. So you can do it, but it's bad. So don't do it. Just forget I said it. Just out of your head. Alright, so that was the action phase. You can build a tile, activate a tile. You can build a tile by putting a worker on it. You can activate a city tile by putting a worker on it, or you can activate a special city tile. And the special city tiles have the gray backgrounds. Okay. On their activation circles. See, it's right there. It's right there. Boop. Sorry. Okay, so that was the action phase. Then we go to the update phase. So, okay, so the action phase goes one by one until everyone's passed. Okay, then update phase. Move all your novice workers one space to the right. Oh, what's a novice worker? Hang on, scrolling back. Novice worker. Okay, all right. So we got villagers, novices, and active workers and retired workers. So there's 4 different. The dice can represent 4 different things. They can represent villagers. They can represent novices that are still in training. They can represent active workers that are available to use, and they can represent retired workers that you still have to pay for. Okay. All right, back down to we're on page 6. Okay, so if you have novice workers, you'll move them one space to the right. The novice worker was on the 2nd level of training will become an active worker. You don't change the experience. Okay. If the novice worker was on the 1st level, or 5th level, according to this PDF, it will move to the 2nd level of training. If you control an academy city tile, you may skip the 2nd level of training. Move your novice worker straight to the active workers area. Sounds like a good tile. Well, and if you don't control an academy, but there's one in the city, you can pay 1 stone to the owner of the academy and then skip the 2nd level of training. Okay. Alright. We've used any retired workers due to the activation of labor camps. Alright. So, yeah, that's... I don't like that. Because I have no idea how workers get retired. I don't know what a labor camp does. So that feels kind of out of place to describe that right there. So we're going to have to come back to the concept of retired workers and maybe labor camps. If you've used any retired workers, do the activation. Oh yeah, we just read that, dummy. Return your workers from the city tiles to your active workers pool one by one. Okay. Okay. All right, cool. So we're going to take workers off the city tiles, put them back in their active pool. If they built a building, they gain 1 experience. So you turn them up the next die face. If they activated a city tile with a red activation area, remember this? Yeah. If that's red, then they gain 1 experience. All other workers don't gain experience. So after you bring them back, then if any active workers have 6 experience at that point, then you retire them. So they go into the retired workers pool. You gain 12 favor for each worker who retires during age 1 and 8 experience for each. Okay, so hopefully they've made some typo fixes in this, because the sentence is written, you gain 12 favor for each worker who retires during age 1 and 8 experience for each worker who retires during age 2. So I'm guessing that's both favor, so you just get points. And then to determine if you are an age 1 or an age 2, check the age 1 or 2 on the top city tile of the deck. Alright. Then you pay the maintenance fees for your workers. So for each active worker and for each retired worker, pay the amount depicted on your player board. Again, it would be handy if I had the game. See if I... no, I can't tell from that. So I'm guessing that they're the same, so each active worker costs the same and each retired worker costs the same, but I don't know for sure. So it looks like you're paying gold for that. So active workers, okay, retired, yeah. If you don't have enough gold to pay, for each gold you're missing, you decrease your morale level by 1. If you cannot reduce your morale any lower, not longer, lower, for each gold you still need to pay, you must give up 5 favor points to a minimum of 0 favor points on the favor track. So that's kind of reminiscent of Robinson Crusoe, where if you can't pay a cost, you have to give up determination tokens, and if you run out of those, then you take wounds, that kind of thing. So it sounds like it's kind of similar. You want to keep gold because you're going to need gold no matter what to pay your workers. So after you've done all that, if you have no active workers, you may give up 5 favor points and transform a villager into an active worker with 1 experience. Okay. Well, that's another confusing part then. So how else would you get a villager? So how do you get a villager to be a novice worker? I don't see anything about that. Yeah, it sounds like this is just kind of like a stopgap. You give up 5 favor points to transform a villager into an active worker with 1 experience. So you can kind of pay to skip training. But then I wonder what happens if you have no active workers and you're at 0 favor points. Yeah, I'm gonna say that's a bad thing. So I'm gonna say don't do that. Don't let yourself get to where you have no active workers and no points. Doesn't seem to say anything about what would happen in that case, so that's a sticking point there. All right. So then, okay, so we're in the update phase. We've given our novice workers more training. We've retired workers due to the activation. Okay, so, sorry. We've given novice workers training. And this is kind of something, so I've been talking for half an hour now, and I'm not really talking about my process or how I do things. But one thing I tend to do, at least in my head, is once I've gone through a section, like a phase or a round or a turn or something, is I will go over it again and again and just very plainly, specifically highlight the key pieces of information I need to remember for that. So, like this update phase section, this column of text here, there's a lot going on here, but I try to just boil it down to update phase. Your novice workers are gonna move. They're gonna move. They're gonna get training. You're gonna get all your workers back from the city. Some of them will get experience. Some of them won't. And then at that point, once they're all back as active workers, then any of them who have maxed out their experience, they retire, so they can move down to the retired area. After that, then you pay your workers. You pay both your actives and your retired. So I tend to do that a couple of, I mean, if I'm in a rush trying to really learn a game quick so I can turn around and teach it, I'll do that real fast, just a few times, just kind of, okay, what happens here? What happens here? What happens here? Novice workers move. Active workers come back. They get experience if they can. They retire if they're maxed out. Pay their fees. So sometimes I might be sitting there reading the rules and I'll be flipping back and forth kind of repeatedly, and that's me trying to go through and make sure I've got that part, that segment I'm looking at, memorized as best I can. Okay, so back to this. So we were still in the update phase. So we're going to update the city. So, okay, so this is where you replenish the city tiles in the available city tiles. Okay, so if nobody... okay. Well, it says here you also take the available wall tile that you flipped over and you remove it from the game. And then reveal the top wall tile from the deck. But it doesn't say... We haven't talked about how you can get those. So I'm going to guess that that might be the activation cost of a building. Or I'm sorry, activation ability of a building. So we'll keep that in mind as we read through. So, okay, so we're going to replenish the city tiles. So any that got bought, we'll replenish those. Then we get rid of the available wall tile and reveal the next one. Then we check to see if the next turn is the last turn of the game. So if the city tiles deck is empty at that point, then the next turn will be the last turn of the game. Or if the wall tiles deck is empty, then your next turn will be the last turn of the game. Okay, so game end is you run out of city tiles in its deck, or you run out of wall tiles in its deck, and then you get one last turn. Okay, so then we got final scoring. So for each active worker, you're going to get points equal to its experience. For each novice worker, you're going to get 1 point. Looks like you don't get anything for retired workers. Oh, because you get points when they retire. That makes sense. Okay. You're going to either gain or lose points based on where your morale level ended up. Then you're going to transform all your resources into gold as if you were using the market. So again, I'm guessing that's another city tile that you can use. So you take all your resources, convert them to gold as if you're using the market, and then score 1 point for every 10 gold that you have. Okay. Yes, in the always ever-present victory condition for games that are based around points, the player with the most points wins. Most points. I really only know of one game where most points loses, and that's 6 nipped. But it's here. Most favorite points wins. Tiebreakers. Those are fun too. So, in order, player with the most morale, or player with the most wall tiles. See, again, I don't like this. How am I getting the wall tiles? And the player controlling most city tiles. So it's morale, then number of wall tiles, then the number of controlled city tiles. If there's still a tie after playing all the criteria above, the Caesar cannot make up his mind and calls upon the gods for answers. The gods favor the youngest player. I don't know why you would have to ask the gods if they're just going to pick the youngest player. I don't know. So, if you really want to make sure you got a good shot to win, make sure you're playing with a bunch of old people, and that you're not an old people. Okay. All right, so I'm going to skip over the variance section because in this example, I'm just trying to learn the game, and I'm not, I don't. If I was trying to learn the game, then I'm trying to teach it, and if I'm going to teach it, I'm not going to teach variants. I just don't. The variants are cool; they're good to have, but I'm not going to teach those. Oh, this is kind of handy. We've got a little quick rules overview. Sorry, I'm on page 7 here. Quick rules overview. So, yeah, okay. Cool, that's handy.